As I entered the king's chambers, a sense of unease settled over me. The room, adorned in regal splendor, was a silent witness to the countless intrigues and secrets of the palace. There, Aldrich sat with Count Perdue, his secretary, engaged in what appeared to be a crucial conversation. I took my place quietly opposite Aldrich, noting the Count's readiness to leave. He held his hat in hand, a signal that their discussion was nearing its end.
Your Majesty, you said the ring has healing magic, is that correct? Would whoever has one be aware of its power? Yes, that is right. I imagine they would if they wore it long enough. Would necklaces, bracelets, and swords be an acceptable alternative? No, it must be a ring. But I suppose a bracelet would be fine, too, as long as it has healing powers. Very well, Your Majesty. Magic jewels such as these are extremely rare and very pricey. We will need to search far and wide. We have someone on the way to the Celestial Isles as we speak. Find one, no matter what it takes. And as soon as you do find one, buy it, no matter the price. Yes, Your Majesty.
Count Perdue bowed low before he departed, a gesture directed toward both Aldrich and me, leaving us alone together in charged silence. As soon as the door closed, Aldrich's gaze found mine. A fleeting smile crossed his face. He rang a bell, summoned the servants who promptly arrived with a lavish dinner, grilled goose skewers, stew, bread and cheese. The opulence of the meal contrasted starkly with the tense atmosphere between us. Once alone again, I ventured to address the earlier conversation. Don't you already have a ring with a healing spell? Aldrich's expression shifted, a shadow passing over his face.
Yes, Bronwyn, I did have such a ring at one time, but I don't have it anymore.
I see. I sensed that Aldrich was reluctant to divulge more. I turned my attention to the stew, finding solace in its rich flavor. The silence that enveloped us was not uncomfortable, but rather a reflection of the etiquette ingrained in us since childhood, the art of dining without a sound. It was only after Aldrich had finished his stew that he broke the silence.
Bronwyn.
Yes, Your Majesty.
Would you mind lending me the desert flower until I find a new ring? If you could do me this favor, I would be very grateful.
The desert flower, my cherished ring from Red, was more than a mere trinket. It was part of a legacy, imbued with the power and history of desert warriors. As Aldrich's request to borrow it lingered in the air, I couldn't help but notice his hands, smooth, unblemished, a stark contrast to the rugged history the ring symbolized. Answer me honestly. Is it you who truly needs it? If you are, I will lend you the ring.
No, I am not the one who needs it. I would like to lend it to someone with injured hands.
That is so kind of you, Your Majesty. Who is this poor person with injured hands? I would like to see for myself.
Please, Bronwyn, let me borrow the ring and I promise to return it. Let's not argue about this.
It's Rose that needs the ring, isn't it? That's very surprising. I would have expected her hands to be as smooth as she is around you. Does she have a rough touch? I wonder what heavy work could have caused that. Aldrich's eyes widened in surprise. I set down my fork, dabbing my lips with a napkin as I smiled knowingly. You clearly don't need to use it on yourself, and it's unlikely you'd lend it to another noble so casually. You certainly can't sell something borrowed. There also isn't anyone else in Elisaria for whom you would dare to ask me to borrow my cherished ring, which you gave me as a token of our love. The person you intend it for must be no one else but Rose. Aldrich stared at me, a mix of shock and sheepishness overtaking his features. He sighed deeply, his forehead resting in his hand.
Bronwyn, please. I am aware that it is a huge request, but I insist that it is for good reason. You wouldn't understand. Won't you please lend it to me?
I stared at him, I wanted the weight of what he was asking to feel as heavy as it was. I wanted him to feel guilty, and I wanted him to know how this felt for me. You insist that I wouldn't understand? Well, then I guess I will let you borrow my ring.
You will?
Yes, it appears you need it so desperately, and since you're so sure you'll be able to return it, there is a condition.
What do you mean? What kind of condition?
His eyes narrowed in suspicion. You will lend me one of your cherished magical items as collateral. Mordric let out a shocked laugh, disbelief etched on his face.
Do you think I will not return it? Your collateral is knowing Count Perdue will be returning with another ring, likely even greater than this one.
Aldrich, I have no doubt that you would be able to replace the ring. Dare I say, if your concubine may accidentally lose something of mine. But more important than the ring itself, I may have someone I wish to lend one of your cherished gifts to as well.
Someone to lend it to? Who?
Have you forgotten our prior conversation? You had some very wise advice about what's available to me. You advised against my association with foreigners. You couldn't be more right. I am the Queen of Elisaria. If you're going to take a concubine who's a foreigner, it is only right that I do what's right for the kingdom, and choose a young, handsome countryman within. Aldrich's expression turned rigid, his composure momentarily faltering.
So, you plan to lend the king's magical gifts to a young, strapping countryman?
Yes, Your Majesty. I nodded, taking a sip of water with calculated coolness. My words were a fabrication, a strategic move in this tragic game we played. If he was intent on taking my ring, I needed assurance. Aldrich's gaze hardened.
So be it. If you don't want to lend it to me, you should have just said no. I'll pretend this didn't happen.
The tension between us was palpable, a silent battle of wills and desires. His departure was abrupt, leaving a void in the room. As I left the dining chamber, the remnants of the stew in my bowl were a silent testament to the tumultuous conversation with Aldrich. A particular emptiness gnawed at me. I'll have to ask Countess Eliza for some ice cream, I thought, hoping to find solace in the sweet treat. There was a certain satisfaction derived from Aldrich's twisted expression, a small victory in the endless game of courtly intrigues, soothing the unease that usually accompanied our confrontations. While wandering through the Western Palace, lost in my thoughts, I stumbled upon a scene that momentarily lifted my spirits. "Is that Prince Henry and Majesty?" I murmured, spotting what I believed to be the familiar figures. As I drew closer, my heart fluttered with the prospect of a pleasant distraction. Yet soon I realized my error. The bird with Henry was smaller than Majesty, its feathers a shade of silver rather than gold. "It's nice to see you, Prince Henry. But that isn't Majesty, is it?"
Good evening, Your Majesty. This is actually Majesty's underling.
A smile graced his lips as he patted the bird's head. The bird responded with a disgruntled expression, eliciting a chuckle from me. "Your birds are all very expressive."
Is that so?
The prince seemed amused by my observation. "Oh yes, Majesty's face can look surprised, sad, even shy at times. This one has a grumpy face." I reached out to touch the bird's head. To my delight, the bird remained still, its gentle nature evident even to a stranger's touch.
Is that so? Oh, he always looks like this. I hope he's not really grumpy. I'm sure he's happy to do whatever I ask. Isn't that right, bird?
The bird's sulky expression deepened at Prince Henry's words. Despite this, I found myself drawn to the creature's charm and continued to stroke it gently. "Would you mind if I hold him?"
I'm afraid that's not possible.
"I can't hold him?"
Yes, I apologize, Your Majesty, but I cannot explain at the moment.
I acquiesced with a nod, sensing that there was more to his refusal than met the eye. As I stood there, watching the birds retreat, A whimsical thought crossed my mind. I would also like to raise a bird of my own. The idea was appealing, a small beacon of serenity in the tumultuous sea of court life. The bird, seemingly pitiful yet intriguing, had captivated my attention. I reached out to touch its neck, and Prince Henry suddenly stepped back. Looking up, I caught his soft concern.
I think this one is anxious to go back to the room, unfortunately.
But he looks so calm.
I can feel that his heart is beating louder. He's actually a shy and cowardly creature. It may appear as if he is friendly, but it is a mask. Majesty, on the other hand, has no qualms with staying close to you.
The blue bird, though labelled cowardly, seemed to possess a dignified air as he glowered at Prince Henry. Eventually he flew away, leaving us in a curious silence. If I may say so, I've never seen such a spiritless bird.
My apologies, Majesty. He's always like that.
Could he be sick?
Oh no, he's healthy. He's just complaining.
You can tell he's complaining. What is he complaining about? Why would a bird with a master like you have anything to complain about? The prince laughed.
That's a good question. I'll have a conversation with him later and ask him.
Am I to assume you're able to speak with birds?
You're very perceptive. I think I already know what upset him. He's probably angry because I stopped the Queen from holding him. Unfortunately, he has a habit of pecking my rear when he's angry, but I have no one else to blame. I brought this on myself.
His response elicited laughter from me, a moment of genuine amusement in the often too serious palace.
Why do you laugh, Your Majesty?
The image of the bird pecking you on the rear, Prince Henry. It reminded me of Majesty. I sometimes pat Majesty on his rear. Majesty has the cutest rear end, even for a bird. Prince Henry's reaction was immediate and pronounced. A flush of red coloured his cheeks.
Oh, thank you. That's awfully kind.
Why was Prince Henry so red? I wondered silently. His reaction was unexpected, his embarrassment evident. He's surprisingly pure, I mused, his rumoured reputation as a playboy contradicting the innocence I witnessed. Realising the awkwardness of the conversation, I decided to steer it in a different direction. I remembered I wanted to ask you something, Prince Henry. Prince Henry, still flushed, nodded.
Yes. Ask me anything, Your Majesty.
I met Duke Elegy yesterday. The prince's expression began to shift.
Ah, I see. I hope he didn't disrespect you in any way.
Not at all.
That's a relief.
But he did say something strange.
How so?
Prince Henry's interest was piqued, his expression tense. I hesitated, unsure whether or not to divulge Duke Elegy's derogatory comments about Prince Henry. Instead, I chose a safer topic. He said you are the one who called him here. He also said you've been setting up something for years. Is that correct? Prince Henry's expression shifted dramatically, a mix of surprise and concern etching his features. The revelation seemed to unsettle him, his usual composure slipping. Why would you call Duke Elegy here? It's evident there must be some kind of plan. What is it, Prince Henry? Be honest with me. Prince Henry looked genuinely surprised. He closed his mouth, casting his gaze downward. In that brief silence, I was transported back to our first meeting. His smile, once a frequent visitor, was absent now. He seemed cold, almost distant. He was contemplative, yes, but the atmosphere between us grew tense. After a moment, his eyes lifted to meet mine, a softness replacing the earlier reservation.
I don't want to lie to you, my queen. Yes, there is some sort of plan, but I cannot say what it is.
He was choosing honesty over safety, a rare trait in our world of shadows and whispers. Yet he was plotting something, weaving a scheme he couldn't share. Was it personal? Or perhaps it involved sensitive information about his kingdom. My mind raced to Duke Elegy, and the possibility of him being drawn into the Eastern Empire's intrigue. You don't have to answer if you can't. Please know that I'm still a friend. If you let me in, I can help. Prince Henry's eyes locked onto mine, a turmoil of emotions swirling within him.
I wish I could, Your Majesty, but alas, I cannot.
He sighed, a heavy, burdened sound that spoke volumes of the conflict raging within him. At that moment, as our gazes locked, the world outside our secluded bubble faded into insignificance, leaving only the palpable tension and unspoken promises that lay between us.
Haxon leaned against the wall of the drawing room. The expression on his face was one of a man torn between annoyance and loyalty. He mulled over Prince Henry's jest earlier that day.
She treated me like a foolish bird. An ugly and soulless one at that. The indignity of it all. How could my dear cousin ask me to play that part? Why do I go along with it?
His thoughts were abruptly interrupted as Prince Henry entered the room. The prince's usual air of command was absent, replaced by a weary slump as he collapsed onto the couch.
Your Highness, are you all right? Did something happen?
Haxon placed a reassuring hand on Henry's shoulder. The prince, however, shrugged it off, his face devoid of anger, more reflective of an internal struggle. Haxon knew Henry's strength well, so his worry was tempered. But the prince's dismissive gesture was uncharacteristic, stirring a deeper concern in Haxon.
Your Highness.
Haxon leaned down to scrutinize the prince. It was Haxon who had been reduced to playing the role of a bird, but it was Henry who looked utterly vanquished.
Did your encounter with the Queen not go as planned? Did the Queen say anything that offended you, Your Highness? Please, speak with me. Did something distress you? Your reluctance is alarming.
Well, Haxon?
Yes, Your Majesty. Please continue.
I think I like her more than I thought, and have become possibly too comfortable. Haxon's brow furrowed in confusion.
What? How so? Does she know something?
Henry buried his face in his hands, his body shaking with a heavy, shuddering breath. Yes, Haxon. I believe I may have. I think I made a slip of the tongue.
You made a slip of the tongue in earshot of the Queen?
No, it was directly to the Queen herself.
Oh my, I see. What did you say to the Queen that has brought you such distress?
I'm worried she now sees me with suspicion. Those discerning eyes of hers, they seem to pierce through everything. Haxon watched as the prince stood abruptly, pacing the room with a restless energy before collapsing into his bed with a groan. Henry's responses to the knight's questions were vague, leaving Haxon staring at him, trying to piece together the puzzle.
Your Majesty, does she know that you have the ability to transform into a bird? The only conclusion to this is that she now knows you have been the companion at her side.
No, she still doesn't know that, although I suspect it won't be long before she is suspicious of that too.
Then what is it?
All she knows is there was a strategy in place to our coming here. She knows there has been a game played in the background to our relationship. She doesn't know the details, but this sours the trust I've so carefully built. Duke Elegy has also sent me a message through the Queen, reminding me that he holds leverage over me.
That all sounds most concerning, Your Highness. Should we be leaving?
No, Haxon, we must stay and see the plan through. I just need some time to think. For now, leave me be.
Yes, Your Highness.
Haxon bowed and exited the room.
The thought of Prince Henry, who I considered both a good person and a friend, potentially becoming an adversary, was a complex one. Differences in agendas and alliances could turn even the most amicable relationships into bitter oppositions. However, being an enemy did not necessarily equate to being evil. It often simply was the result of standing on the opposite sides of a political divide. After returning to my room, I immediately summoned Sir Artemis. His loyalty and discretion were beyond question, and I needed his skills now more than ever. Thank you for coming, Sir Artemis. There is something I need you to investigate. It must be done with utmost discretion, do you understand?
Yes, Your Majesty. I understand completely. What must I do?
It concerns Prince Henry and Duke Elegy. Sir Artemis, well aware of the cordial correspondence between Prince Henry and myself, looked at me with a hint of surprise. He found it peculiar that I sought to delve into the affairs of one I had been in such close contact with.
Duke Elegy's involvement is understandable, but Prince Henry as well. It seemed you two had grown fond of each other. Has something changed? You're still sending letters to each other, are you not?
Yes, we are. However, I would like you to investigate both of them. I need you to focus on their activities prior to the winter solstice, before their arrival at the Imperial Palace. I need to know why they're here, and if they are hiding something. Again, Sir Artemis, I need this to be done with the utmost discretion. It is likely they will anticipate this. Sir Artemis's expression shifted to one of suspicion, yet he remained ever the loyal knight, not pressing further. He responded succinctly.
Yes, Your Majesty. It will be done.
He exited the room. Left alone, I walked towards the window and leaned my head against the cool frame, lost in thought. The Celestial Isles, the Eastern Empire's most formidable rival, maintained a delicate balance with us. What then could Prince Henry's intent be in involving Duke Elegy? Prince Henry's charm and wit were undeniable, and his presence had always been a source of comfort. But now doubts clouded my thoughts. The idea of him as a potential adversary was as unsettling as it was strangely exhilarating.
8 days after Rose asked Rothescue to uncover Duchess Betha's weakness, the Viscount paid her another visit. Upon his arrival, Viscountess Verdi entered with a pot of tea for their guest.
"You're earlier than expected, Rothescue. Please take away the tea, Viscountess Verdi. Our guest won't be staying long."
Viscountess Verdi gave a slight bow and exited the room.
Rose, dear, where are your manners? You refuse to offer me tea.
I didn't send her away because of you.
Then why did you send her away?
Rose didn't want to tell Rothescue that she didn't trust Viscountess Verdi, but Rothescue noted Rose's hesitation. He seated himself comfortably in a chair and smiled.
Interesting. You don't want to say.
I merely wanted to talk with you alone. Speak quickly and quietly. Have you found anything useful regarding Duchess Betha?
You mean, have I proved myself to have value? Indeed, I have. It was not that difficult. The information wasn't hard to find.
What did you find out?
Rothescue grinned and pulled a parchment pamphlet from his bag.
What is this?
Rose took out the pamphlet and unfolded it. It was dated from 20 years earlier.
Read it and see for yourself.
Rose flipped through the pages with a frown. With her limited reading ability, she could only glean some information through the pictures or simple words, but she couldn't tell what Rothescue was talking about. Annoyed, she set down the pamphlet and stared at the Viscount, who snatched it away.
"Oh, my! I thought the king taught you everything."
He smiled, as if to reassure her that he was not making fun of her, and pointed to a section of the parchment.
"This is the most talked-about story in here. It's about Nadine, a remarkably beautiful young lady, the Marquis Betha, who devoted himself to the church, and Lord René, Marquis Betha's younger brother and Nadine's fiancé."
Rosa's frown deepened, the lines of her face etching a portrait of displeasure and intrigue. She leaned forward, her voice laced with a barely contained impatience.
I tasked you to uncover secrets about the Duchess, not idle gossip. Is this the best you can do?
Rothescue's reaction was a mix of annoyance and eagerness to please.
"My lady, the tides of high society are ever-changing. Nadine, once a mere lady, is the same woman who now dons the mantle of Duchess Betha."
Rosa's eyes narrowed, her mind racing.
A duchess from birth she was not. Then Marquis Betha. He's the Duke now?
"One would think so, but surprisingly, no. The Marquis Betha, later known only as Lord Marion, was the eldest son of the then Duke, and next in line to hold the title. But the currents of fate shifted, and now Nadine's fiancé, René, holds the title."
What a twisted weave of titles and hearts.
Rothescue leaned closer, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper.
"Indeed, my lady. It seems Lord Marion was ensnared by love for his younger brother's betrothed, Duchess Betha. It is a tale of unrequited love, it seems."
Unrequited? This is most intriguing.
"It's a story written in the stars and whispered in the shadows. Lord Marion, besotted, pursued Nadine, forging a bond that seemed unbreakable. But when Duchess Betha wed René, Lord Marion was left shattered. In his despair, he renounced his birthright and sought refuge in the church."
Rosa's eyes widened, a glint of opportunity flickering within.
"The whispers say he took his own life within a week of donning the cloth. Since then, Duchess Betha has been known as a femme fatale. The tongues of the court have wagged ceaselessly."
Rosa's gaze locked on to the pamphlet, her mind alight with schemes.
Why would a man of his stature forsake everything? Were there rumours of murder, perhaps?
"Indeed, and more. The Duchess bore a child 7 months after her wedding to René. The Duchess claimed the baby was born prematurely, but people said the baby bore a striking resemblance to Lord Marion. When René became Duke, his wrath was formidable. He crushed the purveyors of gossip, but whispers still linger in the air like ghosts."
Rose gasped, her heart pounding with the thrill of scandal. She leaned back in her chair, a sly smile playing on her lips.
This information could be the perfect weapon for my plan. Well done, Rothescue.
Rothescue's eyes gleamed with avarice as Rose placed a jewel in his palm.
You have proved yourself useful, but there is still more for you to do.
"Yes, Miss Rose, I am at your bidding."
There's a story to be woven, a tale of mysterious beauty visiting Lord Marion in the church.
"But, Miss Rose, such rumour could be seen as a direct assault on the Duchess." Will it hold?" Rose's laughter was like the chime of a bell, cold and clear.
"It will. At the ball, I noticed Duke Betha, his gaze dark and troubled, always fixed on the Duchess."
"Very well, Miss Rose. I will do as you ask." As Rothescue departed, Rose's thoughts raced with possibilities. She paced her chamber, a predator ready to strike. Count Perdue, lost in his thoughts, meandered through the lavish corridors of the palace. Each step he took was laden with uncertainty, the puzzle of the red flame star ring occupying his mind. As he turned a corner where the central and western wings of the palace intersected, he nearly collided with the very man who was the focus of his musings, Viscount Rothescue. "Pardon me. My apologies, Viscount Rothescue. What brings you to the palace at this time?" "Just enjoying the evening, Count Perdue. Excuse me, I must be on my way." Count Perdue watched the Viscount's retreating figure, noting the effortless grace in his step. Rothescue's presence at the palace deepened his suspicions. Without delay, Count Perdue made his way to the king's office. Inside, the king was buried under a heap of documents, the weight of his crown evident in the furrow of his brow. Yet he looked up immediately as Count Perdue entered. "Ah, Count Perdue, have you found it? How much did the maid pay for the ring?" 2 days prior, Count Perdue had briefed the king about the red flame star he had acquired at an auction. He had spent the intervening days chasing down leads, only to discover that the new owner had left for another region. It was a chase that tested both his patience and resourcefulness. "Your Majesty, I have learned that the ring was sold for its true value." "That's good to hear, as it should have." "But, Your Majesty, there is something peculiar about the sale." "Peculiar? How so?" "The merchant revealed that the seller of the ring was not a maid, as we had assumed." "Well, then who was it?" "It was the oracle who travels with Rothescue." The king's expression shifted, a mixture of surprise and contemplation coloring his features. "Rothescue?" "Yes, Your Majesty. It seems he and the oracle are entangled in this affair." The king leaned back, his fingers tapping on the armrest of his throne, a habit of Aldrich's whenever he was deep in thought. Why would Rothescue involve himself in such a matter? And what could be his purpose in having the oracle sell the red flame star? What is her part in all of this? "I don't yet know, Your Majesty, but I assure you I will do everything in my power to find out." Rose gazed at her once treasure-filled jewel box, now almost hollow, a stark reminder of her dwindling fortunes. The few remaining jewels were a stark contrast to its former glory. She buried her face in her hands, a bitter sigh escaping her lips.
"This is all Rothescue's doing."
It had been over a month since she became a concubine. Some trinkets from Aldrich and foreign nobles still remained, but her financial independence seemed an increasingly distant dream. She was entitled to an allowance from the imperial family, yet not a single coin had found its way to her. Rothescue had cunningly claimed almost all of her jewels, and she couldn't dare ask the king for more. The nobles, although wealthy, detested direct requests for gifts. While they flaunted their wealth to entice her, Rose yearned to be untouched by their riches. It was a precarious balance to maintain.
"If only I could confirm that the baby Rothescue claims isn't mine, I wouldn't be in this predicament."
She closed the lid of the jewelry box with a resigned click, her thoughts a tumult of frustration and helplessness. Suddenly,
She heard the door to her parlour open. In a flurry, she concealed the box in a drawer and shut it, just as a knock echoed at her bedroom door.
Yes, 1 second, please.
Rose hurried to the door, her heart pounding with a mix of anticipation and dread. As the door swung open, her eyes widened in surprise.
Your Majesty!
In a reflex of affection, she nuzzled Aldrich with her cheek, but instead of the warm embrace she expected, he gently pushed her away.
What's wrong?
I need to ask you something, Rose, and I need you to be honest.
Of course, Your Majesty. Why wouldn't I be honest with you?
Although she tried to keep her tone light, Rose feared the worst, that Aldrich had found out about her child. Of course Rothescue would go to Aldrich with that information. Aldrich could give him a far better deal than she ever could. It's about the ring, Rose.
The ring?
The ring with the red jewel. The one you told me you gave to a maid. Aldrich's gaze intensified. Rose felt a knot tighten in her stomach. The red flame star ring was the symbol of her fading fortunes and the center of a web of intrigue she had become entangled in. Her mind scrambled for a response, her heart pounding against her chest. Her thoughts were a whirlwind of fear and uncertainty.
Why are you asking about this now, Your Majesty?
Just answer my question, Rose.
Well, actually, I'm not sure. You see, I didn't only give away one ring, Your Majesty.
You gave rings to several people.
Yes, to 2 people. One was a maid, and the other was Rothescue. I cannot recall if it was Rothescue or the maid who took the ring with the red jewel.
A crease formed on Aldrich's forehead, confirming Rose's fear that he had some inkling of the truth. She had made the right choice in admitting her dealings with him. Why did you claim it was only the maid? Sighing deeply, Rose clasped her hands together.
I was afraid you would think there was more to it than there was if I admitted to gifting a ring to Rothescue.
You were correct. I demand an explanation. Aldrich's expression hardened. Rose quickly reached for his arm, holding it close in a gesture of contrition.
I'm sorry, Your Majesty, but I felt indebted to Rothescue for his lie on my behalf.
But he didn't lie for you, Rose. He was merely fulfilling his own agenda. Wasn't he?
I suppose you're right. I never thought about it that way.
Of course I'm right. You have no need to thank him. Aldrich scrutinized her, his eyes narrowing. You didn't give him the ring merely out of gratitude, did you? Did he force you to give him the ring?
How could he force me to give him the ring, Your Majesty? He knows what the consequences of that would be. The rumours about slavery had already spread. What more damage could he do?
Aldrich remained silent, contemplating her response. Rose knew she couldn't reveal the reason for Rothescue's blackmail. If Aldrich discovered the truth about the baby, it would inevitably lead to her downfall. If you swear this is the truth, I will believe you.
I swear it, Your Majesty.
Aldrich gently caressed her cheek, his touch a balm to her frayed nerves. But if Rothescue threatens you, you must tell me. That's an order, Rose. Rose nodded quickly, her voice a mere whisper.
I will.
Despite her assurance, Aldrich's concern lingered. I must ensure your safety. For now, I'll have Baron Lant oversee your finances. Rose's mind reeled. If Aldrich controlled her finances, she couldn't appease Rothescue.
Wait, Your Majesty.
When your allowance payments come in, I'll leave it to Baron Lant to manage the money until you're able to do it yourself.
Thank you, Your Majesty.
Rose began to panic. Trapped between Aldrich's protective vigilance and Viscount Rothescue's menacing threats, she realized she was still just a mere pawn.
Wirral, a city nestled in the valley and cradled by mountains, held a mystical allure. Its reputation as a hub of magical prowess was known far and wide. 2 splendid edifices stood on either end of the city, and it was the eastern one, the Magical Academy, that I visited today. The purpose of my visit was to honor a young girl from an orphanage I supported who was graduating from the Magical Academy with high honors. News of your gifts has reached the halls of the Imperial Palace. That is quite a remarkable achievement for someone at your age. Congratulations. The child blushed deeply, responding in a faint voice, "Thank you, Your Majesty." My heart swelled with pride for her achievement, yet I harbored concerns about her adapting to life outside the orphanage. As I hugged her and offered a comforting pat on the back, she stiffened, unaccustomed to such affection. After a polite bow, she left the room. The man in charge of the academy, Dean Edgar, chuckled softly.
My, you can tell she shows great promise and possesses many talents. She will be a force.
She will indeed. She reminds me of myself at her age. I do look forward to seeing her journey unfold. A conversation about the girl's sponsorship deepened before the Dean proposed a tour of the academy. As Wirral lay within the borders of the mighty Eastern Empire, the Dean extended special courtesies to me. Dean Edgar, is it true that I hear about the number of mages decreasing? It is a matter of great concern.
Yes, Your Majesty. We've received similar reports. Despite extensive research, the decline in magical expression remains a mystery.
As I'm sure you know, Elisaria's strength partly relies on its mages. These reductions will weaken one of our best lines of defense.
If you don't mind me asking, Your Majesty, do you anticipate we will need to build our defences?
As we continued, my attention was drawn to a freestanding wall adorned with several portraits. May I ask you what these are?
Certainly. These are the Academy's most distinguished graduates. Do you recognize any of them?
As a matter of fact, I do. I recognize Duke Bourne's portrait. And, if I'm not mistaken, that is your youthful image, Dean Edgar.
That is quite right, Your Majesty.
Among the portraits, one frame stood conspicuously empty. But why is this frame vacant? The Dean hesitated before answering.
It's empty because a non-regular student, an exchange participant, briefly held the top rank.
That's remarkable. A non-academy student at the top. Who was it?
Prince Henry of the Celestial Isles.
The revelation that Prince Henry, renowned for his striking looks and charming demeanour, had once been the top student of Wirral's Magical Academy, left me in utter astonishment. Such a notable achievement should have been the subject of widespread gossip. Why have I never heard of this before now?
It's not a chapter the Academy boasts about.
Is that so?
Yes, Prince Henry had made a special request regarding this matter.
And what exactly was his request?
He asked us not to disclose his achievement and requested the utmost privacy involving his attendance. But Prince Henry was here just yesterday and amended his requests. You are among the first to know of the Prince's magical achievements, Your Majesty.
Is that true, Dean Edgar? Prince Henry was here, yesterday?
Yes, Your Majesty. He arrived at the Academy unexpectedly. He mentioned specifically that if someone inquired about the empty frame, we were at liberty to reveal the truth.
The timing seemed too coincidental, but I chose not to dwell on it. Instead, my thoughts lingered on the revelation that Prince Henry possessed magical abilities. The knowledge that he was a mage added a complex layer to my understanding of him. As Dean Edgar concluded the tour of the Magical Academy, he escorted me to the main gates. To my surprise, I saw Prince Henry approaching, accompanied by Haxon, his loyal knight. The prince's face lit up with delight upon seeing me. Haxon appeared less pleased, seemingly irritated by something Prince Henry had said.
"Oh my goodness! What a coincidence! I can't believe you're here, Your Majesty. What a delightful surprise!"
"Quite a coincidence indeed, Prince. I had some business at the Academy. And what, may I ask, brings you here?"
"Dean Edgar wished to see me."
The Dean had told me Prince Henry's visit was unexpected, but I hesitated to contradict the Prince, especially with his charming smile beaming at me. Was this encounter part of some grander scheme of his? Lost in these thoughts, I almost missed Prince Henry's next words, spoken with a hint of careful deliberation.
"If I do say so, this meeting must be fate. Would you care to join me for dinner, Your Majesty?"
"Yes, Prince, I would like that." I had no other engagements, and I found the prospect of spending more time with Prince Henry appealing. Yet I wondered, was this merely a chance encounter, or part of Prince Henry's intricate plans? The thought lingered in my mind, adding a layer of intrigue to our unexpected meeting in the magical city of Wirral. The restaurant Prince Henry had selected was cosy and filled with a warm, inviting atmosphere. The knights who accompanied us were seated several tables away, giving us a semblance of privacy. As the prince recommended various dishes and drinks from the menu, his enthusiasm was infectious.
"Try this, Your Majesty. It's a drink made from apples and honey. Are you fond of sweets?"
"In moderation, they are wonderful."
"Then this will suit you perfectly."
Prince Henry, pushing a glass of amber liquid toward me, smiled modestly. I accepted the glass and took a sip. "You're right, Prince Henry. That is quite good indeed."
"I'm glad you were pleased. Have you ever tried beer soup?"
"Beer soup? No, Prince Henry. In fact, I've never been served that either."
"Well, you must try it. It's this establishment's most well-known dish."
"I see that you're trying to get me acquainted with tastes I'm not used to. What if it's not to my liking?"
"I'm sure you will like it. But if you don't, you have my permission to punish me in any way a queen would."
As the waiter set down an appetizer of fried bread, I delicately tore off a piece, only to find Prince Henry watching me with a smile. His gaze was intense, yet it didn't make me uncomfortable. I found myself pondering his intentions, and whether they posed any threat to the Eastern Empire. Breaking the silence, I voiced a thought that had lingered in my mind. "Prince Henry, I don't know if it is the wine getting to me, but I'd like to point out an observation I've had."
"I've not known wine to offer insights. Please go on."
"I can't stop thinking about how you and Majesty look so similar."
"Is that so?"
"Well, of course. Blonde hair, purple eyes. Looks as if you two were twins. Also both strikingly handsome, if I may say so." His lips curled into a smile, and he leaned closer, his eyes playful yet inviting.
"Take a closer look. Do I really resemble Majesty?"
As I gazed into his deep, purple eyes, I realized their mesmerizing beauty was the reason his stare felt so comfortable. "Your eyes are very beautiful. I have a feeling you know that. I must not be the only one to tell you this." Prince Henry leaned back, a look of amusement crossing his face.
"I was just thinking the same thing about yours. They truly are seductive."
"Are you always this charming with women?"
"I would ask the same question of you. Does the Queen enchant every man she meets with those eyes?"
"Only some." As the waiter brought our food, I brushed my skirt nervously, the aroma of the dishes filling the air. Once we were alone again, I seized the opportunity to delve into a topic that intrigued me. "The Dean tells me you're a very skilled mage."
"I was always fond of Dean Edgar. He has a way with his students."
Especially his top students, I imagine.
Did Dean Edgar really say that I was a top student? I'm flattered.
I understand that each mage has unique skills, is that correct?
Indeed. I may never master the magic of my adversaries, but they too would struggle to replicate my gifts.
Leaning forward, I asked as casually as I could, "What is your specialty, Prince Henry?" I waited for his reply with anticipation and curiosity. The answer could reveal much about the enigmatic prince sitting before me. Perhaps I would find out about his plan before Sir Artemis would. But Prince Henry's response, a light chuckle, hinted only at a more playful side of him.
Let's just say I'm good at keeping my head in the clouds.
You've said that before. Does that mean you can fly?
Yes.
How wonderful. That's extraordinary, Prince Henry. Can you take someone else with you? The prince suddenly seemed detached, as if this was a subject he was not comfortable discussing.
Well, I suppose it is possible, but that depends on who it's with.
Would you be able to take me? I would absolutely love to fly with you.
Oh, I don't know if that would work, Your Majesty.
He paused, unsure of how to say the words he wanted to say.
You see, the dynamics of flight are such that, well, it would be a matter of your weight which would make flight difficult.
A matter of my weight. Oh, how the night had taken a turn. I could not believe what he had just said. The blood rushed to my cheeks. Seeing my reaction, he quickly tried to amend his statement.
Please don't misunderstand, Your Majesty. This has nothing to do with your figure. I don't mean to say that you're heavy, just that carrying someone in the sky is a challenge in the way it works.
I suppose that makes sense.
I hope I haven't upset you.
Of course not.
Your Majesty, it doesn't take a mage to see that you are not pleased.
No, Prince Henry, I'm not upset. But in fact, I was upset, and found myself reassessing Prince Henry. His remark, whether in jest or seriousness, revealed a facet of his character that I hadn't anticipated. After completing my mission in Wirral, I departed early the next morning for the Imperial Palace. The journey was long, and by the time I arrived, it was already evening. Upon my return, Countess Eliza, ever attentive to my needs, had prepared a bath for me. I've added some rose-scented bath salts to help relieve the fatigue of travel, Your Majesty. That explains the delightful scent, thank you, Eliza. As I stepped into the hot bath, the warmth enveloped me, bringing an immediate sense of relaxation and comfort. As Countess Eliza gently poured water over my shoulders, a wave of drowsiness began to wash over me. My eyelids grew heavy. How was your trip to Wirral, Your Majesty? It was quite enjoyable. I had a wonderful tour of the Magical Academy and learned much about the magic arts. I'm glad to hear that. It was such a tight schedule. I was worried you wouldn't be able to enjoy yourself. What happened here while I was away? No, don't even ask. It was so chaotic. Chaotic? Yes, Duchess Betha and a young noblewoman were in a fight. Hair-pulling, pushing, and shouting. Any semblance of sleepiness vanished instantly as I turned in the bath, suddenly wide awake. That doesn't sound like Duchess Betha. How did that happen? Duke Elegy rented an entire opera house for a surprise party. Almost every notable person in society attended. During the party, I saw Duchess Betha and Duke Elegy conversing on the balcony. What were they discussing? Everyone was curious about that, but no one knows. Duke Elegy was the first to leave the balcony. Was Rose there? Rose was at the party, but she was engaged in conversation with Grand Duke Lavilla at the time. Countess Eliza sighed, clearly distressed by the recollection. Then, someone questioned Duke Elegy about Duchess Betha's attractiveness. Did he respond? Negatively. He remarked that he understood why many men were captivated by her. I don't understand how that would upset her. What happened next? There was an uproar when Duchess Betha slapped Duke Elegy across the face, in full view of the guests. She struck him so hard, and then a woman suddenly ran over and yanked Duchess Betha's hair from behind. I sat up in the bath, completely absorbed by the tale. Eliza quickly continued, eager to share every detail of the dramatic event. She was one of Duke Elegy's former lovers. She was chasing him after the separation. She was ordered to immediately leave the capital. Does anyone know why Duchess Betha hit Duke Elegy? No, Your Majesty. The lack of clarity meant the incident would fuel endless speculation and gossip. Don't worry too much, Your Majesty. Such incidents are common in high society. Everyone will talk for a while and then move on to the next scandal. I agreed, though I couldn't help but feel a bit unsettled. After soaking for a while longer, I finally emerged from the bath, donning a bathrobe. Incidents like the one involving Duchess Betha and Duke Elegy were frequent in our circles, and as Queen, I had learned to maintain a delicate balance, avoiding interference in personal affairs. Countess Eliza handed me an iced tea as I exited the bath. As I glanced out the window, a familiar silhouette caught my eye. Dropping the cup in surprise, I rushed to open the sash. Majesty! Prince Henry's bird appeared tired, as if he had travelled a great distance. I wondered if Prince Henry had taken him to Wirral, but that seemed unlikely, as Prince Henry would have transported Majesty in his carriage. Taking care of the midnight walk was my immediate concern. I cradled him in my arms and sat on my bed. Drink this, Majesty. I offered him some water. Majesty responded with a soft coo-coo. He drank eagerly, then flew around the room, seemingly regaining his strength. But his behaviour was unusual. He avoided my touch, landing on the table and looking at me with an expression of concern. Is everything all right? Majesty then took my sleeve in his beak and tried to lead me upwards, towards the ceiling. Confused, I followed his lead, but he struggled and eventually fell to the ground, panting heavily. I reached out and gently stroked his head, and Majesty leaned into my palm, closing his eyes weakly. Majesty made a soft noise, and it dawned on me. Are you trying to take me somewhere? He didn't respond verbally, but his actions suggested as much. Where do you want me to go? I'll follow if you lead the way. Was Majesty trying to lead me to Prince Henry? I picked up the tired bird, asking if I could kiss his forehead, but he remained silent. He looked at his wings with what seemed like disappointment before flying out the window. It had been a grueling 2 hours since I arrived at the Central Palace for work. My eyes ached from the strain, prompting me to step outside for a brief rest. As I emerged, I noticed Rose crouching on the grass, her gaze fixed intently on the ground. Hearing the door open, she quickly turned, and upon seeing me, she approached with a bow. Good day, Your Majesty. If you don't mind, could you spare a few minutes? Go ahead, but make it quick. Rose's eyes darted around. We were close to my office, and guards were stationed nearby, including Sir Artemis standing right behind me. It was clear Rose desired a private conversation, but the knight remained in place. I shot him a meaningful glance, and he discreetly moved a few steps back. However, when Rose spoke again, her voice was barely above a whisper. Your Majesty, I hear that concubines receive an allowance. That's correct. How much is it? About 30,000 crowns a year. Rose's eyes widened in surprise. The amount was evidently more than she had anticipated. I watched as a mix of emotions played across her face. She stammered, covering her mouth with her hands. Really? That's wonderful. When can I get it? It will come to you in installments, at least for as long as Aldrich decides to keep you around. You're asking as if you need this money urgently for some reason. Rose hesitated, her hands clasped tightly as if struggling to find the right words. Your Majesty, I know this is an unusual question. Is all the money I shall receive on record? Indeed, I keep the books. Everything at this palace is documented for posterity, as this conversation will be. Please, Your Majesty, I found myself in trouble, and as hard as this is, I beg you for your help. Yesterday, Aldrich— The king, concubine. You will address him as the king. Yes, Your Majesty. Yesterday, the king said that my money would be managed by Baron Lant. Baron Lant? Is that so? I beg you, Your Majesty, would you consider giving me the money completely in advance, separately? I'm sure this will make matters easier for you as well. Isn't this delicious? My husband's concubine wants me to give her an advance on the money that I'm responsible for handling, and to top it off the books. This is because you're concerned about Baron Lant monitoring your expenses clearly. You are aware that even if Baron Lant becomes fully in charge of the money, it is all from the same fund. If you could just give me 15,000 or even 10,000 out of the 30,000 and not record it. I must ask, would that be at all possible? I hear there is a lot of double bookkeeping. Are you suggesting that there is a secret fund I keep? Do you take me for someone who steals from my own kingdom? What are you hiding from the king that you so desperately want this help from me? Actually, I don't care to know. I leave you to keep swimming, or drown in whatever pool you found yourself in. But Your Majesty, you're the one that handles the finances. The king manages everything concerning you, not I. Speak with him. You clearly want to manage the money so bad, make the request. Be sure to let the king know of your desire for your own double bookkeeping. Rose's gaze dropped, a look of embarrassment crossing her face. She muttered something under her breath and left, her steps hesitant. As I watched her retreat, I contemplated her unusual request, and the boldness it took to ask me. I doubted she realized how much she was tempting me to seal her fate.
Duke Elegy, upon entering Rose's chambers and noticing her downcast demeanour, couldn't help but laugh. Her cheeks, puffy and reddened, were a stark contrast to the bright expression she usually gave upon seeing him. Her silver hair cascaded delicately over the pillow, making her an image of irresistible beauty, even in her current state of distress. Duke Elegy pulled up a chair next to the bed, his gaze fixed on her with a mixture of concern and curiosity. "What is troubling you, my dear?"
The Queen is so cold. I don't know how the king puts up with it.
Probably because she is the Queen. Did you have a disagreement with her?
Can I even afford to quarrel in my position?
No, but I know the Queen isn't one to initiate a conflict.
You're familiar with the Queen?
I'm adept at reading people. Not in detail, but I have a good sense of their nature.
So what do you think the Queen is like?
I wouldn't say she has a particularly good nature. She's reserved, or cold, as you described. She embodies the essence of a queen in her actions, thoughts, and speech. What you perceive as kindness might actually be her way of maintaining a distance from others. There is a lioness within her, though.
You deduce that from your brief observations?
It wasn't that brief. I observed her throughout the tea party, which was a rather lengthy affair. So tell me, what's troubling you, Miss Rose? Rose hesitated, her eyes meeting Duke Elegy's. He chuckled softly, his posture relaxed, yet attentive. You don't have to share if you don't wish to. I'm just offering you a friend to speak openly with.
I asked the Queen if she could give me some money without recording it in the books.
What? Why on earth would you go to the Queen in your situation? My. Even if she was the very last person on earth who held water to drink and you were thirsty, I wouldn't dare approach her if I was in your shoes.
But I need money. I'm desperate.
If there's something you desire, why wouldn't you ask the king? He'd do anything for you. I see the way he cares for you.
I can't. Not for this.
Well, this is interesting. Care to tell me why? This will be just between us, I promise.
I'm just upset. The king has instructed Baron Lant to manage the allowance, and now I can't access it freely.
Duke Elegy pondered her predicament. Why wouldn't she be able to use money that was under someone else's management? He sensed there was more to her story than she was revealing, but instead of pressing her further, he decided to offer a solution. Listen, Rose, there might be other ways to handle this situation. Rose looked up at Duke Elegy, her expression a blend of surprise and apprehension. If you need the money, why don't you ask me? Do you think I wouldn't lend it to you?
My lord?
I am quite wealthy. I have the extra funds.
But is there a catch?
There is no catch. I will write the loan and the exact amount. Why don't we do that? The Duke's demeanor was reassuring, yet Rose's mind raced with the implications.
Even if you loan me the money now, I have to tell Baron Lant when I pay you back. It will still be the same. It would be suspicious if he knew I borrowed money.
Baron Lant won't manage it forever, I'm sure. After some time, you will do it yourself, right?
I think that's true. The king did say I would be able to manage my own allowance eventually.
Excellent. Then I'll write down the loan, and I won't ask for the money back for 5 years.
5 years? That's awfully generous of you.
Yes, but there is a condition.
Paying interest?
Duke Elegy chuckled and waved his hand dismissively. Do friends make each other pay interest? Nonsense. You only need to pay the loan amount. Rose's relief was palpable. She was well aware of the dangers of borrowing money at high interest, having heard tales of people ending up as slaves due to unpaid debts.
Then what do you want in return?
I have 2 conditions, actually. The first, like you, I'd like to keep as our little secret. In the Celestial Isles, my tastes are considered acceptable and welcome, unlike here, where they're considered somewhat strange. I believe there are delicacies that the king hasn't had the pleasure of taking part in.
What do you mean by delicacies?
I'm glad you asked. For example, there are the wonders of 3 lovers in bed, especially if one of them is a particular mage that would open doors to ecstasies previously unknown.
I have the king's ear, but this could be a bridge too far. You must know this.
The king hears everything you say. You can let me handle the details once the window is cracked. I have my ways. You have a friend in me now. I assure you, having an alliance like this one will be invaluable. To hold such a secret is to have the power of the kingdom. There is no one you would have to fear. Rose considered the difficulty of what Duke Elegy was asking. If she approached the king with this suggestion, it could easily be taken the wrong way. At the same time, she needed the funds. She was confident she could at least make a small opening, and if it came down to it, she could deny the intent.
I agree to do what I can. What is your second condition?
Like any bank would ask, I need to know. Why do you need the money?
That is private. I would never have asked the Queen if I had to reveal the purpose.
Yes, I understand, but consider me somewhat like a financial advisor. You have a secret to hold on me. You have leverage. You can trust me. Rose gazed at Duke Elegy, contemplating her next words. She knew he would help her if she revealed the truth, but the risk seemed far too great. Yet she desperately needed someone who understood her plight, someone who would offer compassion without judgment. In her heart, she knew Duke Elegy was that person. Her relationship with the king was rooted in passion, a bond that could lead to disappointment and rejection. With Duke Elegy, it was friendship, a connection built on sympathy, support, and understanding. Maybe the king would be more open to the Duke's advances than he was to her. While doubtful, she decided to take the chance, hoping this would indeed turn things in her favor. She swallowed nervously, her heart pounding.
Duke Elegy, do you know a man named Rothescue? My suspicion had grown into certainty. I was being followed, and I knew exactly by whom. It was Rose, my husband's concubine. As I finalized the masquerade ball plans with the culture minister, a nagging sense of discomfort pulled at my attention. The masquerade will be splendid, but we must ensure that security is thorough. I paused, my gaze drifting to the corridor.
Your Majesty, what is it?
My apologies. I caught sight of Rose engaged in hushed conversation with her maids down the corridor. This had become a recurring event, a subtle yet persistent presence that unsettled me. When I glanced again, Rose seemed oblivious to my observation, but the minister's curiosity was piqued.
Your Majesty, do you wish to address something regarding Miss Rose?
Was she not here yesterday as well?
Yes, indeed, she was.
The minister's gaze shifted between me and Rose. I clenched my jaw slightly, recalling Rose's proximity during my recent engagements with other ministers. To them it appeared incidental, but I sensed a pattern. The minister chuckled awkwardly.
I understand she's been quite visible lately, but I assure you, Your Majesty, she's simply unaccustomed to court life. She'll learn in time.
His attempt to downplay the situation irked me, but I concealed my irritation. Thank you. You may leave now, Minister. Sir Artemis, I want you to bring Rose over to me, physically if need be. As the minister hurriedly departed, Sir Artemis walked over to Rose. She feigned surprise at the knight's approach, her maids at her side. I watched as Sir Artemis held her arm, pulling her towards my direction. As she was guided towards me, her maids looked on in apprehension. They all had fear in their eyes, and rightfully so. Sir Artemis grabbed Rose by the arm and brought her over to face me. What is the meaning of this?
You have been following the Queen, and it has gone on long enough. You will know your place in this court.
Thank you, Sir Artemis, for letting it be known to the concubine that she will stay out of my path.
I am at your service, Your Majesty.
Concubine, you are not the Rose you pretend to be. You are a weed that continues to grow and threatens to destroy the beauty of Alisaria. I will ask you a question, and you will answer me truthfully. If you lie, I assure you it will be the last lie you tell, and I will have Sir Artemis here eliminate this pesky weed once and for all. Why are you following me? Rose blinked in apparent shock. Following you, Your Majesty? Sir Artemis, bring Rose to her knees.
Yes, Your Majesty.
Holding on to Rose's hands, the knight kicked Rose's legs from behind, bringing her forcefully to her knees. Careful, concubine. Do not feign ignorance. You've been shadowing my movements for days. Rose's eyes widened slightly. I stepped closer, my voice lowering. Her maids watched in horror. Sir Artemis, if she delays any longer, bring me her head. What is your purpose? To spy on me? Who are you reporting to? Speak now. Rose stammered, her confusion apparent. I wasn't spying. I had no intention to. Sir Artemis raised his sword. I didn't flinch. I would have so loved seeing her pretty head falling at my feet. Do not play coy with me, concubine. I've noticed your presence, always lurking, always watching. What is it that you seek? It's not what you think, Your Majesty. Then out with it. I wanted to learn from you. What exactly is it that you expect to learn from me? Rose looked down, her voice trembling. You are a queen, a woman of power and grace. I am but a lowly concubine, unfamiliar with the ways of the court. I thought that perhaps by observing you I might... Her words trailed off, leaving a silence laden with unspoken implications. Rose's cheeks flushed a deeper shade as her fingers twisted nervously. She shook in fear. Her maids, wide-eyed and tense, seemed ready to scatter at the slightest harsh word from me. I turned to them. Do not go anywhere, maids, and I warn you, if I hear a word of this incident spreading, you will find yourselves in the dungeon. Am I clear? Yes, Your Majesty. Good. Then finish what you were going to say, concubine. Yes, Your Majesty. Duke Elegy says you are a perfect queen. A perfect queen? How nice of him. Is this what you strive to become? No, Your Majesty. I am not of noble birth. There are many customs and intricacies I fail to grasp. Baron Lant tries to explain, but it's often perplexing. So you wish to learn from me? To learn how to be a queen from a queen? Do you see me as a teacher? That this is some academy for you to eventually graduate? And dare I say, replace me? Of course not, Your Majesty. I aspire to emulate Her Majesty's ways. I know you wouldn't take the time to personally teach me, so I thought it better to observe from afar. Her assumption was accurate. I had no intention of playing the role of her tutor. I had no interest in even breathing the same air as her. Concubine, you are not here to develop your mind. You are here for your body. Do not get the two confused. If it is knowledge you truly seek, ask the king for a tutor or request instruction from Viscountess Verdi. I've come to learn you are now quite close with my former lady-in-waiting. At the mention of Viscountess Verdi, Rose flinched. Their relationship was known to be strained, a fact that didn't escape my notice. I have nothing but the most respect for you, Your Majesty. What I yearn for is to mirror your elegance. Duke Elegy spoke of your exemplary nature as a queen. After speaking about me with Duke Elegy behind closed doors, you dare to shadow me. Such impudence. I intend no disturbance. Why not simply ignore my presence? I'll be discreet, unnoticeable, invisible even. What do you say? I do not believe you capable of being invisible, though that would be a blessing. Had I not observed your clumsiness, you would not be on your knees before me. I'll be more cautious. Do you recall the winter solstice? The winter solstice? Of course, what about it, Your Majesty? At the banquet, you tried your best to emulate me. Very poorly, too, I must say. I failed to understand your motive then, concubine, but it is all too clear now. Rose looked at me, confusion etched on her face. I'm afraid that I don't understand. I am aware that Aldrich loves you. You are his choice as you are now, not as a mere shadow of someone else. You have Duke Elegy's companionship as well. There is only one reason to learn from me, to try to replace me. I will not have it. I have no more patience for you. Sir Artemis, dispose of this weed.
As you wish, Your Majesty.
Sir Artemis raised the sword without hesitation. No, wait, please, Your Majesty! I have learned my lesson, spare me! I motioned for Sir Artemis to halt. The blade froze in midair. Let this be the only lesson I will teach you. If you manage to follow me without my knowledge, I cannot stop you. But if I catch you, I will string you up outside the castle walls. You will beg for mercy, and I will not give it. Do not intrude upon my space again. I nodded to Sir Artemis, and he sheathed his sword. We walked past the maids. They wouldn't dare look at me.
Your Majesty, do you suspect the king will hear of this?
I'm not sure, nor do I care. This has gone on long enough.
If the king does hear, he will guard Rose. We may want to travel with additional protection.
I'm sure that won't be necessary. While we walked down the hall, we heard footsteps approaching behind us. Sir Artemis turned, reaching for his sword.
Your Majesty, my name is Viscount Langdale. May I have a word with you, please?
Greetings, Viscount. I don't believe we're acquainted, although I seem to recall you from the Winter Solstice Ball. You were dancing with Duchess Betha, is that correct?
Yes, Your Majesty. I'm a visitor from the Celestial Isles.
It seems a number of people from the Celestial Isles have visited us recently. What can I do for you, Viscount Langdale?
Thank you, Your Majesty. There have been horrible rumours about the Duchess Betha that have been spreading throughout the court. Not only are these rumours false, but I have been investigating the source, and there appears to be more than meets the eye. Knowing the current balance of power in the court, I would ask for your blessing to look into this matter.
Are you implying that someone in the court is responsible?
There isn't more I can share at the moment, unfortunately. I would like to be absolutely certain first. My intent is not to spread further rumour and gossip, but to find the truth.
Why does this interest you so much, Viscount Langdale?
Duchess Betha has a beautiful soul. She does not deserve this. If others would act against her, I will not stand for it.
It was clear that the young Viscount Langdale had true feelings for Duchess Betha. If only Aldrich would have this passion for me. You have a kind and noble heart, Viscount Langdale. I can see that you do this out of love for Duchess Betha. She is lucky to have you by her side. You have my blessing.
Thank you, Your Majesty.
May I speak, my queen?
I nodded to Sir Artemis.
Be cautious, Viscount Langdale. It is easy to be swept away in the heat of your emotions. I have been there many times myself. Be steady with your reactions, or they could have dire consequences.
Viscount Langdale nodded to Sir Artemis before heading away on his mission. This was the first time I had ever heard Sir Artemis speak on these matters. I had known little about this side of him. Do you speak from experience, Sir Artemis?
Yes, Your Majesty. I was quite passionate when I was young. I experienced love and loss many times. I am lucky to have learned my lessons and still be alive to tell about them.
Over the next few days, Rose became invisible, as she had promised. Although she still cropped up from time to time, I barely noticed her. At last I had some peace. However, I knew she must be plotting. Rose was not so easily deterred. I expected that she would appear again at some point, and I would be ready. The masquerade ball was a joyful event that provided a rare opportunity for commoners and nobility to mingle. Yet I couldn't help but feel a pang of unease beneath the surface of the festivities. I made my way through the throng, the vibrant red of my gown cutting a stark contrast against the myriad of colourful costumes. Several of my ladies-in-waiting flocked around me, their eyes alight with excitement. Everyone will be so enchanted by your presence, Your Majesty. I smiled, adjusting my white, plumed mask on my face. I hope this shade of red isn't too bold. Not at all, Your Majesty. It accentuates your regal bearing. Boldness is a virtue in a masquerade, Your Majesty. It's a night for daring and mystery. Their words were meant to be reassuring, but as I stepped into the ballroom, the reaction of the crowd was more than mere admiration. Whispers and gasps of awe rippled through the room as I made my entrance, the grandeur of my attire drawing all eyes to me. Several noblemen bowed deeply as I passed.
Your Majesty, you are the very embodiment of the spirit of this ball. Indeed, the Queen is the brightest star tonight.
The ballroom was alive with the sound of music and merriment, yet I felt a lingering sense of disquiet. Among the sea of masked faces, I found myself searching for one in particular, Rose. She had become a shadow in my daily life, and now her absence was all the more troubling. The rhythm of the music brought me a superficial sense of relief. I was just beginning to lighten up, the fun I so longed for within my grasp, when Rose walked into the ballroom. Your Majesty! Countess Eliza turned in the direction that had stolen my attention and let out an involuntary gasp. There, at the entrance to the ballroom, was Rose, standing clad in a cherry-red dress, the satin shimmering as it clung to her womanly figure. She was dressed exactly like me, down to the white mask covering her porcelain face. The one difference was the silvery blonde hair that poured down her shoulders, drawing even my eyes to her rounded décolletage. Before I could find the words, Laura growled, That impudent harlot has done it again! You've taken the words right out of my mouth, Lady Laura. Once again, Rose has turned a joyous occasion into the thing I despise the most, a spectacle. The room nearly fell silent but for the traditional ballroom music, which, given the tense circumstances, sounded out of place and almost eerie. Rose's latest antic filled me with an unwelcome yet all too familiar anger. Yet when she saw me, she covered her delicate mouth in shock. It crossed my mind that she was just as surprised and humiliated as I was. Nevertheless, I would not allow myself to pay her any of the sympathy that seemed to be her chosen form of currency. I held my ground. The worst thing I could do for my status was approach the concubine as I would appear, but leave it to Rose to arm herself with an oblivious smile and waltz across the room as if she had any grounds to question how I was dressed. My face grew nearly as red as my dress, as Rose gave a perfunctory curtsy and uttered, with audacity, "Your Majesty, you look lovely, but I must ask, why have you chosen to mimic my evening wear?" I let out an involuntary laugh, as it was the only response I could muster with such a ridiculous claim. Luckily, my ladies-in-waiting had tongues that moved as quickly as their minds, and Eliza let out what she could no longer hold in. "It should be an honor to have an item in your wardrobe that comes as close to Her Majesty's standards." Having had a moment to gather my thoughts, I smoothed the front of my dress, gaining confidence with the security of my ladies and friends around me, and spoke with composure. "Miss Rose, if I remember correctly, you've been following me around the grounds with the explicit intention of learning from me. I assume that this is an example of you taking that too far. You remind us time and time again how painfully unaware of noble etiquette you are." Rose's cheeks flushed with shame, and I felt a momentary pang of guilt for my last comment, which I feared was a low blow, even for the concubine. She swallowed, shook off my jab, and spoke to me in a pathetically hopeful tone that was even more infuriating than her entitled one. "Perhaps it can be a new tradition. The Queen and all the concubines can come to the annual masquerade ball costume the same." "Miss Rose, need I remind you, this is not just any party. The Queen's gown is not a costume, and we are not the same." Rose stared at me, her mouth agape. I regained my composure and stated more plainly, "If we are dressed the same, we both end up looking silly, and so does Aldrich. Not to mention it diminishes Elisaria's authority." At the mention of Aldrich, Rose stiffened. It was clear that the last thing she would want is to disappoint him. I decided that I had sufficiently won this battle and brushed past her. From the corner of my eye, I saw her toss her mask to the ground in frustration. As I settled into my assigned seat, a horde of noble and common men rushed over to Rose to provide comfort.
Don't cry, Miss Rose. You're too pretty to cry. You arrived first. You should be the one to wear the dress.
Do you think the Queen is trying to humiliate the King's concubine?
I did my best to ignore the troubling conversation in support of Rose. As Queen, I had long accepted that I would not always be in everyone's favour. Still, it hurt to hear my reputation being assaulted by such petty gossip. Especially when they stared at Rose, the thorn in my side, like she was a magical fairy from another world. How was I the only one that could see the magic she was bringing was the dark, destructive kind? Before I could get too lost in my own spiraling thoughts, I felt a presence behind me. I turned, fearing another confrontation, but relaxed when I saw it was just my loyal knight Artemis.
Your Majesty, would you like me to silence the falsehoods being whispered?
As grateful as I am for your loyalty, dear Artemis, I fear it is best to leave it be. I must appear unshakable to my peers and subjects. What would they think of us if they knew their queen was so fragile as to be aroused to fight on behalf of a dress?
Very well, Your Majesty.
As I turned back to my ladies-in-waiting, ready to soothe the knots in my stomach with a few more sips of wine, I heard Rose's familiar shriek from among her admirers. Your Majesty! Sure enough, Aldrich was entering the ballroom. I couldn't help but smile at his chosen suit, an elegant but ordinary one. In a moment of tenderness, I thought of all the years he reserved the extravagant fabrics and jewels for me. I remembered when I was the only accessory he needed, one he once wore proudly. But now, as Rose rushed to his side, clinging to his arm, I prepared myself for his wrath. Would I be humiliated? Perhaps even demanded to change? I watched as they murmured to each other, Aldrich's gaze slowly turning to meet mine. I greeted him with a knowing smile, one he did not return. Instead, he began to make his way towards me, Rose still interlocked with him. Somehow the king's approach did not stop the ruthless whispers, even from those of the highest rank.
Can you believe the Queen and the concubine came in identical garb?
Miss Rose was already wearing the dress when the Queen arrived. But then a voice bellowed that stopped all the rumours as quickly as they started. Aldrich commanded the room.
Hard to believe, indeed, considering I asked the Queen to wear red this evening.
I whipped my head around to face my husband, shocked at his decision to side with me for the first time in what felt like a lifetime. Rose stared at her lover, mouth agape. Aldrich approached even more closely as I remained in my seat. He leaned forward and kissed me gently on the cheek.
You are beautiful beyond imagination, my queen. Thank you for granting my request. No one can wear red quite like you.
I decided to go along with this lie, knowing if I didn't, I would risk humiliating the king, although I remained thoroughly confused. Was his attention and support merely to protect our reputation? Or, I thought with a twinge of hope, was there affection behind those words? Regardless, we were a team, and I followed suit accordingly. Your wish is my command, Your Highness. Rose had had enough. It seemed she knew her place once more. She let go of Aldrich's arm and skulked away as the shared object of our affection took his seat beside me.
So, who copied whom?
I was pleasantly surprised by Aldrich's familiar and playful demeanour, and decided to run with the banter. Perhaps I was finally learning to play this twisted game. Who do you think?
To be honest, my queen.
He leaned closer to me, his lips softly grazing my ear, and when he whispered, a shiver went down my spine.
I don't care.
It seemed that Aldrich's main intention for this evening may have been to surprise me. What happened to the man who placed all blame on me when his concubine but uttered a whimper of dissatisfaction? You surprise me, Your Majesty. In matters both petty and pressing, I have not been in your favour, especially where Rose is involved.
Would you have preferred I stood by her rather than my queen?
Certainly not. I stared at him with scepticism, unwilling to be won over so easily. If he thought I would be swayed by one kiss at the villa and some ballroom banter, he was surely underestimating me. He may have lost respect for me, but I was determined not to lose respect for myself. Assessing my mood, he sighed, resigned.
You are the face of Elisaria. Our solidarity is political, not personal.
Satisfied, although a bit disappointed, that this was about our status, not our marriage, I was ready to let the silly dress matter go and enjoy the party. Masked men and women held hands, smiling and twirling across the floor. Even the clumsiest of dancers was smiling, as noble and commoner alike revelled in the spirit of the party. My attention was drawn to the far end of the room, from whence loud cheers were emanating. The source of joy was none other than Rose, face flushed with dance and drink, moving freely in the centre of a high stage. Her silver hair gleamed as her feet moved effortlessly across the floor, and the crowd was drawn to her, like a moth to a flame. The shoulders of her red dress were now sheathed in a golden shawl, which set her outfits apart distinctly, and I admitted to myself bitterly, made her look quite stunning. It was no surprise to notice Aldrich's gaze fixed on his concubine as well. My next words were involuntary. Why don't you dance with her, Aldrich? Aldrich's eyebrows lifted in surprise. His expression turned serious.
You are not a violent woman, Bronwyn, but it seems as though someone once taught you to fight with words. When are you going to leave your cold demeanour behind and allow us to have a real conversation?
He leaned even closer to me, our knees brushing together. The intensity of the conversation and the physical tension between us made this moment almost exciting. Well then, why don't we forget the niceties that the Crown inflicts upon us for a brief period and speak to each other plainly, alone? I blushed as I suggested a one-on-one meeting with my husband, fearful not just that he may get the wrong idea, but also that I may forget myself. I was slowly learning that anger and passion were not such distant neighbours. The fleeting moment of fun had passed for me, in the back and forth with Aldrich, and I found myself once again exhausted with the position I was in.
You suggest speaking in solitude, an effort to keep ears deaf to all words but your own. It reminds me of the childhood we shared.
In an effort to keep Aldrich from seeing how deeply these words hurt me, I simply waved my hand at him. My eyes had grown accustomed to holding back the tears that were threatening to fill them to the brim. Frustrated and angry, I focused on the only thing in front of me that seemed to have any sweetness left in it, the decadent slice of strawberry cake on my plate. Aldrich, appearing bored, had barely finished the last of his wine before having his glass promptly refilled. His wandering eyes lingered on my fork as I licked the last bits of frosting from its tines.
Now, Bronwyn, how will you attract your precious young Elisarian with a diet like that?
Never knowing Aldrich to be anything but complimentary of my physique and the way I chose to maintain it, it took a moment to swallow the unpleasant realization. He wasn't even going to let me enjoy my dessert anymore. I adopted the cold, regal tone I had mostly reserved for his concubine these days, and retorted matter-of-factly, "Not to worry, Your Majesty. Most men follow their heads and their hearts in matters of love. It is just you who obeys the fleeting demands of a less discerning appendage. I smiled to myself as I saw Aldrich in my periphery, cross, drunk, and speechless. I took another bite of the cake. A few moments later, our attention was stolen by a shrill giggle a few banquet tables away. Aldrich's gaze was fixed on his concubine, who was clinking goblets and giggling with Duke Betha. Was he jealous? Getting a taste of his own unfaithful elixir? But to my dismay, Aldrich turned back to his wine, finished the goblet, and joyfully slammed it down on the table.
Another!
He was unbothered by Rose's interactions. This meant one thing, I realized as my heart sank. He trusted her. My downtrodden thoughts were interrupted by a velvety voice, addressing me gently, as if knowing my fragile state.
Your Majesty.
Even before I locked gazes with his velvet eyes, I knew the voice belonged to Prince Henry. I was not just excited, but relieved. A friend had come.
May I sit with you? I have no business dancing and making a fool of myself or embarrassing the Celestial Isles.
His jests relaxed me even further. You forget yourself, Prince Henry. I've had the honor of dancing with you. You move yourself across the floor almost as if flying. We shared a coy smile, the kind between friends who have a secret. Suddenly aware of the king's daunting presence nearby, the prince cordially turned to address Aldrich.
Your Majesty.
The king responded with nothing more than a grunt, barely an acknowledgement. Suddenly reminded of the awful disagreement between the two men over Rose's trustworthiness. Even the lingering taste of strawberry cake in my mouth felt sour. Reluctant to let Rose poison even Prince Henry's presence, I excused myself, eyes lingering on the prince's for a moment longer than intended, before I showed myself, alone, back to my quarters.
No sooner had Bronwyn left the party when Rose found her lover, and, sensing that his inhibitions were quite loose, felt confident that she might win back whatever she had lost in the dress debacle. She pulled his hand to dance to a slower, more sensual song.
Your Majesty, do you not find me beautiful in this dress?
The question was one in vain, as Rose felt the physical evidence of his attraction to her against her hip. Sensing the power she had over him, she edged even closer. My prey, I found you beautiful even when you were caked in dirt, caught in a forest trap. To see you in red satin? It is not fair to the rest of the world's beautiful sights. You outshine them all. Rose smiled smugly and rested her head on Aldrich's chest. But this wasn't the only thing she was focused on. As the song turned from sensual to a more jovial tune, Rose used this opportunity to switch positions with Aldrich to confirm what she had hoped to see. Duke Betha was making his way from the seat where he and Rose had been sitting over to his wife, who was, as usual, surrounded by admirers, male and female alike. As Aldrich spun Rose around, the Duke's movements did not escape his attention. What is he doing?
I don't know, Your Majesty, but he looks upset.
The Duke, who ordinarily accepted his wife's popularity at parties, was red in the face. He stormed through the crowd of people and spoke loudly enough for everyone to hear, even over the music.
This marriage has run its course.
My Duke, what do you speak of?
Enjoy your admirers, Duchess. Enjoy your petty fights with other women. Enjoy your poisoned beauty. Perhaps they will fill the void of a husband.
Duchess Betha's face grew beet red, and she desperately tried to remedy the situation. With a nervous chuckle, she addressed her husband.
I think you've had too much wine.
The Duke scoffed.
Perhaps.
But answer me this question." He inched closer to the Duchess, so close that a few guests wondered if he was going to bite her. "Is he my brother's son?" The Duchess could do nothing but sputter, leaving the Duke with the last word, and a brutal one at that. "I want a divorce."
Though it had been days since the masquerade ball, I remained exhausted, not only from my own experience, but also from the anxiety I felt for my dear friend Duchess Betha. Yet today was the birthday party of Lady Alice. Like the queen that I was, I rose above my own discomfort, and decided that if I got through the last events, I could get through this one. I picked up my cucumber sandwich as my ladies-in-waiting gossiped about the most recent events in conspicuous whispers. It is a shame paternity tests are so unreliable. Duchess Betha told me in confidence that she would never divorce. I fear our dear friend may have a trial in her near future. My ladies covered up their eagerness for gossip with earnest sympathy for Betha. Although I had learned the hard way not to over-involve myself in these matters, I couldn't help but ask my trusted ladies something that was gnawing at the back of my mind. Could this perhaps have something to do with Miss Rose? My ladies murmured in agreement. It seemed there was often one common denominator in the equation of scandals, and I had seen that denominator speaking with the Duke just moments before he demanded to end his marriage.
Rose sat at her vanity mirror in her silk robe, combing through her silvery hair, absent-mindedly humming a tune from childhood. She stared into her own eyes, sharing a smug smile with her reflection. Soon she would be known as the realm's greatest beauty, while Duchess Betha would wear the crown of untrustworthy harlot. Rosa's humming continued as she heard someone approaching slowly, delicately. But from all of her late-night dalliances with Aldrich, she had come to be comforted by the creaking of the hall's floorboards, like it was the soothing song stuck in her head. Her smile transformed from smug to sensual, as she formed a slightly open pout of her delicate pink mouth. Rose walked slowly to the door. The longer she made him wait, the more desperately he yearned for her.
Well, hello.
To her surprise, it was not her lover, the king, who stood before her, but a noble whose name she had forgotten. Where had she seen him before?
Can I help you, Duke? Sir.
Viscount Langdale.
Of course, Viscount Langdale. Do come in.
Rose gave a deep curtsy, bending low enough to make sure he could catch a glimpse of her chest. No doubt he had come to beg her for a dalliance, and perhaps she could use him to her advantage. The Viscount entered and closed the door behind him.
I'm sure we've met before.
I'm sure of it as well.
A ball, perhaps? Do you like to dance?
Rose swished her hips from side to side.
I love to dance.
The Viscount took a step towards her, and suddenly Rose didn't recognize the look in his eye. This wasn't love. It certainly wasn't lust. She found herself backing away from him, nearly falling over her vanity. She caught sight of a glint of silver exiting his waistcoat, and just as she remembered the winter solstice, the image of Viscount Langdale dancing with Duchess Betha with longing in his expression, she felt the cold metal sword plunge into her abdomen.
Ah!
Rose fell to the floor, clutching her stomach. For a moment, she missed the durable, coarse clothing she wore as a slave. This satin, though priceless, left her vulnerable. As she braced herself for more impact, suddenly, her door shattered. A fine leather boot plunged through the opening.
Viscount Langdale wasn't the only man in the room any longer. Duke Elegy grabbed her attacker by the hair, tossed him out of the room, crashing through the door again in one fell swoop. A swarm of knights seized the murderous Viscount as Duke Elegy scooped Rose up into his arms. "It's all right. You're safe now. You're safe."
As I readied myself for work, I stared into the mirror while Countess Eliza trimmed my hair with a serious expression on her face. She noticed me looking at her and gave an awkward smile, but she seemed bothered nonetheless. "What troubles you, Countess Eliza?" Eliza responded with a sigh. Without a word, as women find themselves able to do, we shared a knowing look. These days, what wasn't troubling us? A noble woman left by her husband. A concubine stabbed by a noble. Eliza needn't say more, nor could she, because Laura entered timidly and spoke. "Your Majesty, the king is here." "Here? Now?" It was early in the morning. Aldrich was here in person instead of sending a messenger? Wasn't his concubine, his love, in critical condition? I looked at my lady-in-waiting with puzzlement, but despite my vexation, I didn't have a choice. Let him in. Aldrich entered, and I looked at him through the mirror. I prepared to offer some words of comfort, but noticed his expression was strangely joyful? Was Rose's injury less severe than expected? That was still no reason for joy. "How is Miss Rose doing, my king? Is she all right?"
"Rose is not awake yet, but her injuries are not life-threatening."
"Well, that must be a relief." Aldrich continued to stand there, clearly having more to share. I was at a loss for words. Could it be that the king simply wanted to stay and talk to me? Could Rose's near-death experience have given Aldrich a glimpse of a reality without her? "Would you care to sit down?"
"No. Bronwyn,
"Yes, Your Majesty."
I need to speak to you about Rose."
Of course, that was the reason for his visit. It was always about Rose. "But I thought you said her injuries were not serious?"
"That's true, but in inspecting her abdomen, the doctor found something else quite noteworthy. Bronwyn, Rose is pregnant."
For a moment, I was unable to comprehend Aldrich's words. "Rose is with child?"
"Yes, Bronwyn. Although it might not be acknowledged by the imperial family, the child will be my firstborn."
"I see. Apologies, Aldrich, but I can't offer my congratulations." The words slipped out unbidden, filled with honesty. Aldrich's expression turned sour, but it was the truth. I could not pretend joy in this.
"You need not offer congratulations. However, beginning next month, I expect you to increase Rose's allowance, as is due for any concubine bearing a child."
"Yes, Your Majesty, it will be done." My eyes were fixed on the intricate patterns of the carpet I was standing on, tracing each flower and leaf woven into the fabric as a distraction from the tumult within. I remained silent, unwilling or perhaps unable to engage in further discourse about Rose. The room was thick with an unspoken understanding, a tension that neither of us dared to address. Aldrich, with a heavy sigh that seemed to carry the weight of his world, departed without another look in my direction. Left alone in the room, time seemed to stretch and warp around me. It was only when I noticed a figure perched on the windowsill that the spell was broken. Majesty, my loyal bird companion, had entered through the open window. I wondered if he had been a silent witness to our conversation. "Majesty, I'm so grateful you've come." With a flutter of wings, Majesty flew into my arms. I held him close, my embrace tight, seeking solace in his feathered warmth. As I buried my face into his plumage, feeling his large wings wrap around me as best they could, A sense of comfort washed over me. Thank you, Majesty. You don't know how much I needed this right now. My voice, muffled as I whispered into his feathers, was filled with heartfelt gratitude. The steady, loud beating of his small heart against mine was balm, a silent reassurance in a world fraught with intrigue and heartache. It was indeed a hug that surpassed 1,000 words, a moment of pure, unspoken understanding and companionship in the midst of the relentless storms. The news of Rose's pregnancy spread through the palace like a wildfire, setting ablaze every whisper and glance in my direction. The courtiers, once so bold in their gossip, now muted their conversations and spoke in hushed tones as I passed. By the time dinner approached, the strain of maintaining a calm facade throughout the day had left my facial muscles weary and tense. I retreated to the solitude of my quarters and pondered the future. The previous queen's dealings with the king's illegitimate offspring lingered in my mind. She'd been fair to most of them, but her coldness towards the children of certain concubines was well known. But for me, this path would be fraught with peril. The child, born of Aldrich and Rose, would undoubtedly inherit their striking beauty, commanding the sympathy of all. If I showed any coldness towards such an innocent, my reputation would suffer irrevocably. What stance should I take when Rose's child is born? My thoughts were interrupted by Countess Eliza's arrival at my door. Your Majesty, I'm so sorry to disturb you. I had not heard Eliza come in. I slumped into an armchair, feeling the weight of the world pressing down upon me. Are you okay, Your Majesty? Yes, Eliza. Everything is fine. What is it? Prince Henry is here. He seems quite eager to see you. Prince Henry? He's here now? Yes, Your Majesty. I sat upright in my chair, a flicker of surprise crossing my features. Her relationship had always been discreet, limited to occasional visits and exchanged courtesies. His unexpected arrival suggested urgency. Wait 1 moment, please, Eliza. I quickly composed myself and proceeded to the drawing room. I hadn't yet changed from my formal attire, which seemed appropriate given the unexpected visit. Bring him in. Would you like tea, Your Majesty? Yes, thank you. Once we were alone, Prince Henry approached me, his arms open in a gesture of comfort.
I've been wanting to console you. May I offer a hug? As a friend. Friends hug each other for comfort.
I hesitated for a moment, taken aback by his directness. His eyes held mine, earnest and full of genuine concern. A realization dawned on me. He had come to offer me solace in my time of need. A wave of gratitude washed over me. Yes, please, Prince Henry. I would like that very much. As I stepped into his embrace, I was immediately enveloped in the strength of his arms. The firmness of his embrace, the broadness of his shoulders, provided an unexpected sense of security. I leaned in closer, inhaling a scent that was both familiar and comforting. It reminded me of the scent of Majesty, the bird who was the bridge between us. I found myself wondering, did Majesty carry the essence of the prince? Or was it the prince who bore the scent of Majesty? The familiar scent mingled with the unfamiliarity of his arms, eased the chaos in my mind. His body, much larger and more imposing, made me feel that everything would be fine. The sound of his heartbeat, strong and swift, was like a reassuring melody. That was all the more reason that his next words caught me completely off guard.
I really must be a rotten scoundrel, Queen.
What are you talking about?
I came to comfort you, fearing you were upset, but amidst that I found myself harboring inappropriate thoughts.
I slipped free of his embrace. Inappropriate thoughts? Whatever do you mean, Prince? He hastily waved his hands, his ears turning a deeper shade of red.
No, that's not what I meant, Your Majesty. I assure you, I'm not the kind of person who gets excited in such situations.
I stared at him, a mix of confusion and curiosity in my eyes. He covered his eyes with his hands, wishing the ground would swallow him whole, and groaned.
You didn't even ask me in the first place. I've dug myself into this, haven't I?
Well, yes, you have dug yourself in quite deep. Shall we get you out? A small smile played on my lips at his distress. My amusement did not escape the notice of the prince.
Human emotions are indeed complicated. I'm glad my embarrassment could bring you a smile.
At that moment, Countess Eliza entered with a tray. Your tea, Your Majesty. I held out a teacup to Prince Henry, and as he took it, our fingers brushed, sending a shiver through me. His gaze, initially lowered, slowly rose to meet mine, revealing his captivating purple irises beneath soft golden lashes. Prince Henry, if you were a woman, the king would surely fall for you. Your eyes are stunning.
I appreciate the compliment, Your Majesty, but the king isn't my type.
He laughed, his eyes sparkling with amusement as he sipped his tea.
But if I were a woman, I'd do whatever I could to become the Queen's lady-in-waiting.
Would you? Tell me why exactly you would like that so much.
Because, Your Majesty, I would like to be with you all day.
Fortunately for us, you can do that without needing to become one of my ladies-in-waiting. We stared into each other's eyes. The air grew heavy between us. If ever there was a moment our relationship were to change, to grow deeper, it was this one. Prince Henry put his hand on my knee. I smiled. His gaze had trapped me in a spell I never wanted to leave. The moment was one I desperately needed, and one I could have stayed in for the rest of time, but it was cut short by a knock on the door. Your Majesty, Duchess Betha has arrived. Duchess Betha? At this hour? Thank you, Eliza, bring her in. An unexpected visit at such an hour was unusual. I had a cordial relationship with the Duchess Betha, but her presence, especially considering her own burdens of late, piqued my curiosity. When the Duchess entered, her eyes glistened with unshed tears. Prince Henry, noticing her fraught condition, excused himself.
Your Majesty, I will take my leave.
Prince Henry and I shared a look that gave away the feelings we had for each other, though we were careful not to be seen by Duchess Betha. Then the prince turned and exited the room. Duchess Betha, please join me on the couch. Eliza, please bring a cup of tea for our guest. Yes, Your Majesty. As Eliza fetched the tea, the Duchess sat down and clasped my hands tightly. What's wrong, Duchess? Are you all right? I waited patiently for her to speak, offering silent support. Finally, she found her voice, choked with emotion. Your Majesty, I'm so ashamed to ask this, but could you please save Viscount Langdell? Duchess Betha's plea was earnest, laden with desperation and hope. Her eyes, wide with distress, met mine as she struggled to articulate her fears. Please save Viscount Langdell, Your Majesty. He won't be given a trial. Speak slowly, Duchess. What do you mean there won't be a trial? The Viscount's case. It won't be brought before the chief judge. The judge is an ally of mine and tells me the situation is grave. But why won't there be a trial? Is it because of Rose's condition? Duchess Betha bit her lip and nodded in agreement. Yes. The king will charge Viscount Langdell for endangering a royal heir. Not just for the attack on Rose. Those charges will certainly seal the Viscount's fate. We know that the king's desire for vengeance is well known. A public trial of Langdell would risk revealing too much. After the attack, it is rumoured that Langdell was found shouting incoherently. Is this true? I don't believe so, Your Majesty. Viscount Langdell is known for his integrity. I do not believe he would act so recklessly without cause." As I considered Duchess Betha's words, I was reminded of my encounter with Viscount Langdale just days before the attack on Rose. "There's something you should know, Duchess. Viscount Langdale came to me a few days ago. He wanted my blessing to look into the accusations against you, but he wouldn't tell me any details. Both Sir Artemis and I could sense this matter was of great importance to him. I gave him my blessing. At the time, I had no idea it would come to this. Do you know what he uncovered? It must have been severe." "I do not. But he deserves a chance to defend his actions and explain himself in court." A single tear traced a path down her cheek, embodying the agony of a woman who had seen too much suffering in the name of honor. Duchess Betha's past was marked by tragedy and scandal, the weight of which she bore in silence. "I will consider a personal intervention on behalf of Viscount Langdale." Duchess Betha's eyes widened in surprise and hope. "You would do that, Your Majesty?" "I harbour my own suspicions about this entire affair. I believe Langdale's motives to be pure." "Do you suspect Miss Rose of foul play, Your Majesty?" "Strictly between us, yes. But let's not add to the rumours. I intend to uncover the truth myself. Right now, the king is absent, and the matter of the Viscount Langdale weighs heavily on the court. I assure you, I will visit the Viscount myself." "Thank you, Your Majesty. Your intervention gives me hope in these trying times." As Duchess Betha inhaled deeply, I could see that her composure was on the brink of falling apart. I extended my handkerchief to her. She accepted it, but instead of using it, she held it tightly in her hand, her eyes lingering on the fabric. "May I keep this?" "Yes, Duchess, of course you may." "No matter what the outcome is for Viscount Langdale, I shall not forget this gesture. I owe you a great debt, Your Majesty." I shook my head, dismissing the notion. "It's merely my duty. Your gratitude is more than I deserve." "But it is more than duty, my queen. In my darkest hour, you extended a hand of compassion. That is the truest form of kindness. May I embrace you, Your Majesty, as a token of my gratitude and respect?" I nodded, slightly taken aback by the intimacy of the gesture. Duchess Betha leaned forward, wrapping her arms around me in a warm, comforting embrace. She held me for a moment, her touch surprisingly tender. A stark contrast to the formalities of court life. She smiled softly, a quiet acknowledgement of the bond we had formed in this brief encounter. Duchess Betha then stood, her posture regal yet imbued with a newfound sense of ease. "I must take my leave now, Your Majesty, but know that your kindness has touched my heart deeply." She bowed gracefully, her departure marked with a sense of quiet dignity. The next day, filled with a sense of urgency and foreboding, I dispatched Sir Artemis to gather information about Viscount Langdale. His return was swift, his news grave.
"Viscount Langdale's interrogation has concluded, Your Majesty. The king has decreed his fate."
"What has been decided?"
"He is to be sentenced to death, Your Majesty."
A cold shiver ran down my spine. "Thank you for your diligence, Sir Artemis."
"Of course, Your Majesty. I am at your service."
Sir Artemis bowed and took his leave. My mind raced with the implications of this news. Leaving my office, I hastened to the prison, my thoughts a whirlwind of concern and disbelief. As I entered the prison, the guards, who were lounging at their posts, jumped to their feet and stood at attention.
"Your Majesty, we were not expecting you."
"I am here to see the accused." The guards looked at each other in surprise, then nodded and opened the gate.
"Yes, Your Majesty."
"You are not to breathe a word to anyone about this, do you understand?" They nodded in agreement. Since they offered no resistance, it was clear that Aldrich had not forbidden my visit. The prince's noble wing was empty, save for the occupied cell at the end of the corridor. As I approached, I saw Viscount Langdale, a mere shadow of the man he once was, his noble figure marred by the harshness of his captivity. He's been beaten heavily after the incident. My heart ached at the sight of his battered state.
Forgive me, Your Majesty. I would bow, but I am unable to stand.
There is no need for formalities here, Viscount.
Thank you, Your Majesty. Please tell me, have the concubine's attempts to ruin Duchess Betha's good name become the talk of the court?
Unfortunately, no. They are being dismissed as the ravings of a madman. Is this what you revealed in your outburst during the arrest?
Yes. I needed everyone at court to know, yet I couldn't contain my anger.
His confessions cast a new light on his actions. You acted rashly, driven by a sense of justice, perhaps? Viscount Langdale slumped to the floor, the energy draining from his body.
I was too impulsive, perhaps, acting in anger about what I discovered. Now I see the folly of my haste. I acted out of loyalty, Your Majesty, but now it seems my fate is sealed.
I won't lie to you. Your situation is dire, Viscount. But know this. Your brave actions have not gone unnoticed. There are those in the court who understand the depth of your convictions. Viscount Langdale's gaze lingered on me, a silent plea for understanding, or perhaps absolution in his eyes.
I only wish to serve justice, Your Majesty. In my heart, I believed I was doing what was right. It gives me comfort to hear that at least it is known to some. Then, has Duchess Betha's reputation been restored?
No one speaks of it anymore. The scandal has been effectively smothered, I'm afraid.
Smothered? How could such treachery be so easily forgotten?
It was overshadowed by the news of Rose's pregnancy. Viscount Langdale's reaction was visceral, his fingers clawing through his hair in a mix of frustration and despair.
Pregnant? That changes everything.
Yes, Viscount, and there's more. You are to be executed, without the chance of a fair trial. Viscount Langdale was visibly shaken, his body trembling as the full weight of his fate seemed to dawn on him. He clasped his head, his voice reduced to a pained whisper, barely coherent in his agony. Yet he looked up at me, a glimmer of hope in his eyes.
You wouldn't be here if my death was certain.
You're right. There might yet be a way to save you.
Are you considering using one of your royal pardons to spare me?
Unfortunately, that won't work. Your crime is deemed too severe for such a measure. You'll have to take another path, one that will require you to heal quite fast. Put this ring on, I hope it'll work in time. I took the desert flower ring off my finger, the same one Aldrich had so desperately wanted, and gave it to Viscount Langdale. Take this. You need it more than I do.
But this is a healing ring. Your Majesty.
I'm well aware. I promise to help you. But in return, you must tell me everything you know about Rose.
Thank you, Your Majesty. Of course, I'll tell you everything. I will spare no detail.
Then begin at the start. Viscount Langdale took a deep breath, his voice steadier as he began to recount his tale.
Yes, Your Majesty. Following the rumours surrounding the Duchess, my search led me to a village near the church where Lord Marion took his life.
And what did you find there?
In a local tavern, there was much gossip about the Duchess and Lord Marion, but the accounts were too consistent, too rehearsed. It struck me as unnatural. Truth tends to warp as it passes through mouths, yet this tale remained unblemished.
And what did these accounts say?
They described the appearance of a noblewoman who could only have been Duchess Betha, visiting Lord Marion in secrecy just hours before his death. The details were identical in each source.
It seemed more like a carefully crafted lie rather than a fragmented truth.
Continue, Viscount. Every detail matters now.
I crafted my questions carefully in order to lead them into a trap. When I spoke to each informant separately, their stories began to fall apart. They couldn't keep their lies straight. It was evident that someone had orchestrated this deception, paying handsomely to keep the rumours alive. At first, I hadn't even considered that woman could be behind this.
That woman, meaning Rose?
Precisely, Your Majesty. So, I asked these informants to identify their benefactor. I had them each speak separately, assuming they'd protect the same person. There was only one name they all avoided.
Who was it, Viscount Langdale?
It was Rothescue.
You believe Rose directed Rothescue in this scheme?
Rothescue was a non-entity until he became involved with Rose. What else would explain why he retracted his accusations of her being a slave or his lavish expenditures? It all points to her influence.
Did you present these findings to the king?
Yes, Your Majesty. I tried, but to no avail.
This explains why you will not be given a trial. Do you have any documented evidence of your investigation?
Yes, my queen. There are documents in my study, inside the desk drawer.
I believe your findings may aid in sparing your life.
Thank you, Your Majesty. But how? If I am not to be pardoned...
I will see to it that you are given the opportunity to escape. Duchess Betha implored me to intervene on your behalf, and you have convinced me. Tears now freely streamed down his face.
I am forever in your debt, Your Majesty. What are you proposing?
First, you will swear what I'm about to offer to secrecy. If you choose to accept and are caught, you will be executed on sight. Do you understand?
I do. I swear I will not speak of this to anyone.
Good. Then at midnight, I will have Sir Artemis relieve the guards on duty for review. My maid, Alora, will return here with a key and unlock the door. You are to flee to the western part of the palace, which should be empty. There is a door at the end of the west wing, where you are to exit. There will be a horse waiting for you. From there you will ride and never return. As he processed my words, the cell was filled with a heavy silence. The emotion of the moment was palpable, a mix of relief, sorrow, and the painful reality of the choices that had led him here.
Thank you, Your Majesty. I will do as you instruct. And you have my word. I will find a way to repay you for your kindness someday.